Aloha and welcome back to a new episode of the Ohana Packers Edition podcast, the podcast where two dudes from halfway across the world talk everything green and gold. I'm Mike, and that's Iowa Joe. And today we're finally celebrating a Packers victory Sunday again for the first time in too many weeks to count. Joe, it's good to be on this side of the ledger, and I don't care who the opponent was. How about you?
Well, they did what they should have done. This is what we were expecting out of the Broncos game. This is what we were expecting out of the Raiders game. It was kind of what we were expecting from the Falcons game. Go in, beat up a subpar team, and get the victory.
Yep.
Take the win when you can get it. But so far, it's good that we've finally got over that hump. We broke that streak. Now we're on, we're one up now. But like we keep saying, week in, week out, just stack the successes with it.
Yeah.
Like I was on the post game show for Game on Wisconsin, and like I said on there, it was like it all came together in this game. There were some bad, but it wasn't like a complete disaster out there like it has been the last few weeks. It actually looked like they were clicking and they were coming together, and they were responding to what they needed to respond to.
No, that's a really good way of putting it. Yeah, they actually played cohesive offensive football. It didn't look like it was pulling teeth for an entire game. It got clunky at times, like you said, but for the most part, the operation looked more fluid. It wasn't so like stuck in reverse, stuck in park with the brake on kind of thing. There was a lot of there was a lot more just sensible football being played today, not so much like getting stuck in the mud like we've seen the past month. So that was a good thing to see. But we'll kind of go play by play, or not play by play like we always do, but we'll do our usual go through the sides of the ball. But it's good to be talking, like you said, mostly good about a Jordan Love day. Not blow you away stats, but he did what he needed to do: 20 of 26, 228 yards and a touchdown. And in all honesty, when your run game gets 184 yards, that's a pretty good game passing the ball, honestly. So good stuff from Love. How'd you like his game today, Joe?
Outside of a couple of things, like a couple of the passes, like early on the pass to Christian Watson, that Christian beat his guy, but Love kind of underthrew it. I know, Mike, you're good about saying that you have to go back to the all 22 and see how that played out, but really it looked like he just kind of underthrew the ball. I don't know if you misread it. I don't know if he didn't. And of course, the weather was a obstacle today too, because it was, even though it wasn't like a monsoon type rain, it
Steady
still was
rain.
raining. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
still raining enough to cause issues. So, the ball could have slipped out of his hand for all we know, or he just didn't get the best grip on it.
Yep.
Then the second one to Watson, where he actually caught it, which we'll get into here in a minute. It was a good throw, but it was another one that he probably could have laid out a little bit longer, or maybe a little bit, I don't know if it was an issue with the route that Watson took, or if Love misread it and threw a different way. It was still a good jump. It was still a good catch, whatever. But I did see that as maybe a little bit of a something wasn't good in that, even though it resulted in a positive play. And then there was a couple of misses too. I know he missed Aaron Jones on a screen pass once. There were a couple drops. So realistically, if they wouldn't have had any drops and you add in the couple of errant throws, he still would have relatively been around the 24 out of 26 mark. So that's still even 20 out of 26 is still above 500, average. So
Yep, that's almost 77% for Love today. So
There you go.
that's a good day. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, the two throws to Love. What I saw on the first one, I thought he was late. I think the you saw signs of the indecisiveness, in terms of what he was seeing on the play. It was a cover two hole shot, and he needs to just hit the back. And once, yeah, it's open for debate on how fast you're supposed to diagnose it's cover two, but I thought he took that extra second to kind of go, I think it's cover two. Yeah, it's cover two. Okay, it's definitely cover two. Here I go. I'm throwing the ball, kind of thing. And then at that point, the where Watson is on the field, by the time he's throwing the ball, Watson's at like the 15 or 10-yard line. So you figure he's throwing it 40 something yards in the air. So it's like, oh, I can't throw it at the back of the end zone because I'll just take it. His momentum will just take him out of bounds. So he's like, oh, I'll try and have him post up in the front of the end zone, one of those kind of situations. And I think that throw is still an element of he's thinking about too many things before the throw in terms of, am I reading the right coverage? It's all of those mental questioning because you've had mistakes where he's thrown into double, triple coverage. You've got guys who have run the wrong routes. Are they gonna run through the ball where, depending on where you throw it, those kind of that kind of indecisiveness. And then when he's throwing the ball, what was everything we heard in the preseason was, oh, LaFleur and Clements and Love, the thing they worked on was putting more air under his deep ball. And I went back and watched his college film, and I didn't think he had a trouble with that in terms of his deep ball accuracy. But coaches are going to do coach things, and if that's the thing that they worked on, I think that's too far in his head. And that's part of the reason. And, that throw was kind of the example of, because like you said, Joe, on top of it, like I said, being late and short, it's raining. And, Troy Aikman says it all the time, but throwing a wet football does suck. It sucks more than basically any other kind of weather. Like playing in the snow is more fun than playing in the rain. So, if that thing comes out just a tight, and he's trying to loft it, and he's trying to, Joe Montana used to say, I don't throw darts at the wall, I throw balloons at darts. And it's kind of that where he's trying to be perfect with a throw when he's just got to kind of let it fly. And that's where I kind of curtailed it into his second throw to Watson, where I thought he did just let it, he just kind of uncorked it and let it go. And I saw, Perone kind of criticize, he's like, why is he wait to throw it? But that one, I went back and looked at it just from the broadcast view, and he doesn't take in a discernible extra hitch or anything like that. He kind of curl hops into it, but he is throwing it like 30, 40 yards downfield at that point. So you got to get a little oomph behind it, especially because, he's going from middle, slightly near hash to far side of the field. And the only real critique I have on that one is it's kind of like the game interception at Denver, where Watson has leverage. He's won his route. Get the ball outside the number. And, I'm not saying that Watson's not going to still fall on his head, because he probably is going to still have to go up and go into the air to make the catch, to make sure it doesn't get broken up, if the safety comes over late and just gets his arm in there, kind of thing. But it might look a little cleaner if you throw that thing more towards the sideline. So that's what I've got on that one. But I'm very happy with that second throw, the one that actually was completed, that he just uncorked that thing and let it go. It didn't look like he, let the cut. He kind of knew what he was looking for in terms of what the Rams were trying to do on that coverage, what they were hoping, the Packers were hoping their own play call was going to do to the coverage. And he just hit the back of his drop. Like I said, took that little curl hop to get into his throwing motion and put it out there for Watson to get to. And then, yeah, the only other throws that I saw get questioned, there was the one that Heath dropped. And from what I saw on the broadcast and the close-up replay is that I don't mind how he put that throw in there. Everyone's like, oh, he's got to throw it higher. But if he throws it higher and leads him anymore, that's a hospital ball. And, he's doing what Rodgers used to do, is kind of like throw it low and throw it a little short, not short, but don't lead the target as much, so that he kind of sits in the hole there and will catch the ball. And regardless of whatever you think, Heath has to make that catch if he wants to be on this team. You can't be a marginal roster receiver who hasn't been active in over a month and drop that kind of pass.
And I kind of think with that one to Heath, that's why I didn't really mention it, because I didn't really think it was all on Love. I think Heath should have slid into it more than dove at it.
I can see that, yeah.
I think he would have been it, but I think what he was thinking is if he could still catch it in motion, he's going to be able to turn it up field. But like I said, I'd have to go back and rewatch it. But I think if he would have more did more of a slide into it, he could have brought it in better than what he was going at. But like they always say, you're in the NFL. If it hits your hands, it needs to be caught.
Yeah. And then the only other one I had a critique on was I know some will probably nitpick the two that like Dobbs had at the end of the first half, and then Reed had the one where both of them kind of slid back across the first down to gain. And honestly, yeah, he could get it a little higher. I'd be more concerned, like we said, I don't want to hang it all on the weather, but he put it more or less where you want, the minimum of where you want to get the ball to, and gave his guys a chance to make the play. So I'm not going to critique that too much. And then the only other one is the one that Wicks just fumbled. And, I saw some people say like, oh, like get it up on his numbers so that he could, hey, like Wicks had enough time to catch that ball, sit down, take a dump, turn around and drop the newspaper. It's not the end zone. Hold on to the damn ball. Like, yes, Love could get that throw another foot up, hit him in between the 1 and the 3 instead of down at his belt. But I mean, come on, you're a professional. Take care of the football. This isn't college where you're down when any body part hits the ground. And it's not the goal line where you just have to stretch and get it there. You're live, that's a live grenade, and you got to just take care of the ball. If you come up short, then you know what? That'll be a -1 for Love in grading and a +2 for you. But you go a -100 because you go and try and friggin' Hollywood spin that thing out of there and drop the ball and of course, in typical Packers luck on a fumble, not only does he fumble it, but it bounces so perfectly that Ahkello Witherspoon has to do nothing to recover it. It bounces straight up in the air, and it looks like I know you could clip that play where it's not a fumble. Wicks like tipped it to Witherspoon. It's not obviously how it happened live, but that's how stupid of a bounce the Packers got on that it never had a chance to roll out of bounds. It never had a chance to have touched the out of bounds line when he did it or anything like that. That thing went down and came straight back up. And yeah, I tweeted it. I was like, if that's not the story of what the Packers offense has been all season, nothing is. So, yeah.
The only other critiques I could make of Love is I think a couple of the sacks were solely on him.
Oh yeah, definitely.
The
one before the end of the half was definitely on him,
because I thought he was doing too much of the Rodgers thing where he was just holding on to the ball.
Yeah,
he's got the ability. Get out of there. Don't.
Or honestly, on that one, just take the 6-yard check down to Watson there. I understand that. At the time you have like 30 seconds or something like that. Just dump the ball out. No one, I know he's trying to like give guys a chance to get open, but Watson's there now. Put the ball on him. Give him a chance to do something with it. You have 2 timeouts at that point in time. So just get rid of it. Get Watson the ball. Or even if you dirt it at his feet, that's 1,000 times better than taking a bad sack there. So yeah, definitely agree with you on that one, especially. And
especially when the line is holding up for him. We've been concerned with the line forever, and he's got like a million minutes sitting back in the pocket. Do the check down or get the hell out of there. You've got the ability to run, just run it.
It's funny because most of the game he was doing a good job of kind of getting through his progressions, hitting his check down, and it was kind of like coming out of the half, LaFleur kind of went back to Love and was like, dude, you did it so good for the first 28 minutes of the game, and then you took a dumb sack. So, and then you saw him kind of go back to quickly flipping through. It's like, this is gonna outdate the younger fans, but it's like going through a Rolodex. You got to know where the letters are, and you just keep flipping your fingers through that thing. Don't sit there going, where is Donald in the B section or anything like that. So
right, yeah.
But no, overall, I thought he had a solid game. Yeah, couple times where the throw to Wicks, the critique I'll have on him on that is, and I'm gonna go to my phase. I gotta see the coach's tape on that one, but you can see from the broadcast when you replay it that he's on his back. He's kind of jumping backwards as he's throwing it, but I can't tell if he's just trying to make sure he gets it over the rush on the left side or anything like that. But otherwise, I thought for the most part his footwork was pretty decent. He had a couple throws that got away from him a little bit. And then that touchdown he threw, that was just a gorgeous play design by LaFleur. I tweeted it. If you go back to 2012, it's basically the same play that Jermichael Finley scored against Detroit in Ford Field, where you fake the screen to the right and you come back to a tight end leaking out in the middle. And Musgrave broke 2 tackles, I think, today, technically. So it was good to see from him.
Yeah, but like Amr and I were talking on the post game, on that little shoestring, he looked like he wanted to go down.
Oh yeah,
he felt the touch and he was like, I gotta go down. I gotta go down.
Not just baby steps, they're Bambi baby steps. But hey, just like the theme of today's show is any progress is good progress for this. Any positive progress is good progress for this offense. So got to see a little bit of everything from everyone. Like I said, Christian Watson finally got a contested catch. We really hope that he's okay after that.
Except for after doing it, he
got
like
listed out with three different injuries and stuff. So hopefully he's okay. Dobbs showed off his strong hands all afternoon. I know he was only targeted 3 times, but all 3 of his catches were critical catches at the moment in the game he made.
I really thought Love did a good job of spreading the ball around.
Yeah. And that's what he did best in the first 2 weeks. And even the Saints game, that's when he was his best. And we'll kind of go through that later. But I thought one of the mistakes that he and LaFleur have had recently is they've tried to force the ball to Watson. And I understand getting it in your best, what's your most explosive playmaker's hands. But I thought they got away from kind of spraying the ball around, which is where they had a lot of their success to start the season.
And I noticed that there weren't as many like screen plays as there have been in the past few weeks, where it seemed like every other play it was like some kind of screen, whether it was a tight end screen, or it was a wide receiver screen or running back screen. There wasn't a lot of that. They finally pushed a little bit further into the field than they have before.
Yeah, so definitively, I've got 3 plays. So the one that he threw it a little wide to Jones, the one that he connected with Jones, and Jones got a pretty decent chunk gain on it. I think, what did he gain? I think he gained 13 on it. And then the touchdown to Musgrave, I kind of count as a screenplay because, it's using misdirection and you're throwing blockers in the way kind of thing and stuff. So, like I said, and they threw the ball, they dropped back to pass 30 times when you combine attempts and sacks, 31 or 32, I guess, because Love had a couple scrambles. But, when you have your number of screens down to 10% as opposed to 40, 50%, it works a little better. You can't throw too many backup curveballs to power hitters or they start to crank them. And like you're absolutely right, Joe. Seeing it used more sparsely, it made it more of a surprise to the defense as opposed to, oh, here comes another one because it's a second play after the last one.
Yeah, but the O-line really held up pretty well for the most part. There were some dumb mistakes. Now, I tweeted it. I know a lot of other people were throwing it out there, but I don't know if it's my Packer fan bias, but when they would show the pictures on the screen, I couldn't see, these offside calls on Runyon. I know they called the one on Yash, but we all knew it was on Runyon. I really didn't see it. And then I know at his media scrum, Runyon said, "That's how I've done it my whole life." And now they're starting to nitpick it. So I'm really confused by it. I don't know what you saw with it or...
So it gets into this really gray and technical area of the rule book. And it's how the NFL, and I don't have the rule up right now, but it's how the NFL determines what crossed into, quote unquote, in the neutral zone is for offensive, defensive players. So for defensive players, it's easier because it's like, is your helmet across the ball? Which, okay, and that was my whole gripe with it is you got guys who line up offsides on, in terms of defenders. And of course, right after I said that, Rashawn gets called for, pretty blatantly lining up offside. But there have definitely been plays like that where we've played a lot of games where I'm screaming at my TV like, that dude, when we played the freaking Legion of Boom Seahawks, that was Michael Bennett's thing, was he was going to keep creeping his ass half an inch forward every play until he finally got told to back up. And so that's my first gripe with it. My second gripe is it's so inconsistent in terms of refs properly adjudicating what a legal alignment by an O lineman is. So what I'm talking about more is guys actually on the line of scrimmage. So you've seen where an offensive tackle is like so far back that his head is barely even with the waist of the guy next to him. In terms of the rule for what Runyon supposedly broke, Blandino tried to explain it on the broadcast, and I don't think he did a very good explanation because he tried to bridge the gap between using what's in the rule, like the explicit language in the rule book, but also trying to like trade some words out to sparse it down for fans. I believe the rule is helmet should match whatever the most front part of the guard, the next man over. So the center is obviously on the ball. The guard, that whatever, whether he's looking down or he's looking forward, whatever part of his helmet is the furthest forward can't pass the center's shoulder pad. And what I did watch is on the first drive of the Phillies' first drive of their game with the Cowboys tonight, I looked at what they do. And what they do, because obviously this is, Blandino was kind of mentioning, this is a point of emphasis for this year. This was something that the league committee kind of said, like, okay, we're not going to rule out the Philly, the tush push, but we are going to try and adjudicate certain parts of it. And so what they did was they want to make sure that the offensive linemen don't have an advantage, quote unquote, by being lined up offside or anything like that. So what Philly does, which is, if Green Bay is going to keep going with QB sneaks, which obviously I think they should, Jordan is, he's 6'4", 220, 230. So that's a good sized quarterback. And he's, watching him run all three of the ones that he ran today, he's good because he does that thing that you're supposed to, where he gets the snap, almost takes a step back to like look where the D linemen fall and where his O linemen are able to open a hole for him. And then he goes. But what Philly does is their O linemen, they basically line up like they're in a field goal block unit. So their guard will put so if it's the left guard, he puts his right foot behind the center's left foot, and then vice versa for the right guard. He hooks his left foot behind the center's right foot. Doing that, you almost guarantee that you can't be offside. But the biggest gripe over all of this is that, and they're kind of 2 points into one. One, they're using a freaking view that's not a down the line of scrimmage view to say that he's offside. And I know that Westendorf was at the game, but I know if he was watching the broadcast, the two of us would be screaming the same thing. This is 2016 Michigan, Ohio State. JT Barrett was short, and I'll die on that hill every day of my life. Where it's like, you cannot use a camera angle that's canted back from the line of scrimmage to tell me that an offensive player was short or on the line of scrimmage, because it's like a multi-billion-dollar industry, right? And we can't put a camera down the line of scrimmage every time. And then the fact that you can't replay that, like, I understand that you don't want to have every play challengeable or reviewable, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. The DPI one was a horrible mistake. But shit like that, where you can visibly tell, is someone onside or offside? Yeah, I don't understand why that isn't some kind of reviewable thing. And obviously in this case, I don't know if it would have mattered because they don't, quote unquote, have a view right down the center of the line of scrimmage. But it's one of those where it's like, get your shit together, NFL. You're raking in billions of dollars a year. What's more? One more camera. And two, why isn't that a challengeable part? If we can challenge, there's 12 guys on the field, why can't I challenge that one of them is lined up offside? So,
well, I guess what really cemented my view on it is when Runyon said, I've been doing this my whole career. You know, it would be different if it was something that they just started working on. But if this is something this one player who was getting called for it has been doing his whole career, then why is it just now
Right.
being called? Because he's been doing it for the last. If he's saying he's done it for his whole career, then we know this whole season he's been doing it. And as far as I know, he's never been called for it yet,
Yep.
other than today's call. So that's what really bugged me on it. But like I said, I agree wholeheartedly with you. If the NFL can put chips in the ball to know where the ball is, if they can put cameras into the pylons in the end zone to see that, if they can fly a friggin' drone over the field and catch camera angles, there should be no reason that they don't have an angle on there to look. Now, whether or not to challenge it, I don't know. Just because I think that would be too subjective in a way, just because I don't think it gets called enough to warrant a challengeable thing. It's such a rare call that, because I think before today I've never really heard of an offensive offside,
Not on a
penalty.
lineman. Not on a
Yeah,
lineman. I've definitely seen it on receivers and tight ends and stuff like that. But yeah, not on a guard, for God's sake. Yeah.
right. So, but anyway, probably should continue talking with the offensive line. So, I know they kind of took my advice and started rearranging a little bit. And I think I said this on our preview that if anything was going to change, it was probably going to be just Nyman starting over Rashid. So I got to kind of pat myself on the back for that one. So
And Rashid didn't get in for performance. He only got in because Yosh hurt his back. But kind of like last week, Rashid played not bad,
yeah,
honestly,
he
after he
played
got
better.
in.
So
Like you said, I don't know if it's like a matter of being mentally locked in or whatever kind of thing, but he's played better after being thrown in the doghouse the last 2 weeks. So, I mean, whatever. If Yosh can't go this week, just have Caleb Jones ready, Johnny on the spot. And it's like, hey, like you're not playing good, Rashid. We're putting Caleb in for a drive.
and I'm really surprised Caleb wasn't active for this game just because of some of the issues. But I don't know. It's kind of a weird situation with him that they pretty much carried him all year without him seeing any kind of action. I know part of the year he was last year, the year he was on the NFI or whatever for most
That
of
was
the
last
year.
year. Yeah.
Yeah. And then this year he's basically been carried around without being activated. So it's really a weird situation with him. I know they're kind of treating him like the next Yosh just because, they're both monster of men type builds and raw potential, but you would think with the injuries they've been dealing with, you would want him activated. So if worst case scenario happens, we get him out on the field. Now, I do have to say, praise be it to St. Vincent Lombardi that they didn't friggin' put Royce Newman in there when John Runyon went out.
Yep. And
And
and to double up on it, when they sat Jenkins down at the end of the game, gave him the last series off, they put Ryan in at left guard. So they did it twice. They did the right thing. Do the right thing. They did the right thing twice.
and he wasn't bad. Maybe this is one of those, maybe he had one of them delayed reaction PEDs that, it took a year to get built up in a system for him to actually perform better or whatever. But, he looked pretty good. I know some people were talking about how bodies were getting moved better when he was out on, in the 7 snaps and the run game looked a little bit better. I still have my I still think Runyon is a solid guard. I know he's had his issues, but we've had issues up and down the whole line, so I can't solely put it on him. One, because the couple of plays that when Zach Tom moved to center, it looked like that whole interior looked a little bit better. then when Myers went back in, it kind of floundered a little bit more. So I don't know, but Sean looked good. I'm happy for him, and I'm happy to know that we're not going to go to Royce Newman again.
No, yeah, he definitely was doing some good thing. They went heavy on the run that series, and I don't know if that was planned. And that's the thing is everyone's kind of like, was Runyon benched or was he injured? Because he did go in the tent after the attempted fourth, and they tried to sneak it on the first drive, or did he? Was he injured or did he get benched? What was the deal? But Ryan had a really good drive. He was moving people both in terms of when he was double teaming with either Zach Tom or Josh Myers, or he had some single blocks where he kind of road graded a couple line of scrimmage defenders. So I know it was only 7 snaps, but it's not like he just blew it in one of those 7 snaps. So that's a great sign to see.
Yeah, it
And
wasn't like
yeah,
Royce Newman just blocking ghosts out there and letting Jordan Love get hit or stuff like that. Ryan actually looked like a competent offensive lineman. I
yep,
know. I keep Royce is probably a really good guy, but I do not want to see him back on this Packers
no, yeah,
line for
it's
anything.
if they got a 6 for Cole Van Lanen for playing never, they can get something for Royce Newman. You can just say like, hey, there's good play. Yeah, he's disappointing, but there's good snap. There's meat on them bones still, kind of thing. So they got to get able to get something for his ass this offseason. So, but no,
I
my
think
whole
I
thing.
have an idea of an article I'm going to put up for Ohana Packers, and it has something to do with players being brought back or not brought back next year. So, spoiler alert, be on the lookout for it.
And honestly, my whole thing, obviously, I'm a Michigan grad. I love Runyon. He was a great player for the Wolverines. Like you said, he's still a good guard. The concerns I have for him this season are his whole thing is that he's an average run blocker, but a plus pass protector. He had that streak of like no sacks and minimal pressures for his first 3 seasons, kind of thing. And my whole thing this year is he's been a leaky faucet in terms of pass protection. He's had some bad whiffs. He had that play that was circulating where Myers kind of pushed a stunt into him and Runyon didn't know what hit him, and then he spin cycled himself trying to look for who he was supposed to block and stuff. And those are the
But
kind of plays that you don't.
I've watched that play. I know it's been on run through Twitter for the last few days or whatever, but I have to give him credit. At
Oh
least
yeah, no,
when he spun around, he went back into like block mode, whereas
yep.
Newman probably would have kept spinning.
Oh yeah, no. Newman would have blocked Tom, but yeah,
Or Myers would
yeah,
have just kept spinning. So I
yeah,
have to give Runyon credit that he at least went back into, okay, I got hit, I got turned around. Who am I hitting?
yeah. My whole thing with Runyon and Ryan is Runyon is probably not back next year. I put it at best at 50-50 that he's back next year, just because his rookie contract's up, and he's the kind of guy I feel like they would have extended already. And so that's why I'm like, if you're not getting the best of what he's supposed to be in terms of a plus pass blocking guard, and his run blocking hasn't gotten better, it's one of those where it's like, at worst, I don't know if you remember, but when Jenkins was a rookie, what they did, Lane Taylor started at left guard that season. And then by the second game, they were swapping series. Every other series they were swapping. And then Taylor got hurt in the 3rd game or something like that. And so then Jenkins started the rest of the way. But yeah, like at least he's something like that where, like I said, unless they're going to announce an extension with Runyon tomorrow kind of thing, I don't see him back next year. But yeah,
Honestly, and like I said, I don't want to spoil anything because I do want to write this out as an article for the website. But he is one that I could see coming back
I
even
could
without an
too.
in season contract, because he feels like the type that they'll go into the next season. Okay, this is what we need. This is what we got. Hey, John, will you take a 2-year, you know,
like Lucas
$5 million
Patrick.
contract.
Yeah, Lucas Patrick, I think at the time signed for like a 2.8 or something like that. So it's like a placeholder contract. Yeah.
Yeah. So
And like
I
I know
could
where
see
you're
him
going,
doing
where
like
it's at
that.
least there's an answer. It might not be the answer we want at one of the guard spots, but at least it's something reliable kind of thing,
Until
But
they
yeah,
can bring somebody in through the draft or
yeah,
free agency. I know we've talked about this before, that the guys going into potential free agency really don't look like and that's why I said, if they can't pick up somebody in free agency, they're not just going to be able to rely on that next draft pick to come in.
yeah,
So there's a possibility that 3 out of the 5 positions are completely new people. Can you really go into next season with 3 out of the 5 positions being completely brand new, not on the team people?
right. And that's where I kind of want to get Ryan some snaps. Is at least like you won't necessarily figure out if he's the answer, but you'll figure out if he's not the answer. Like at worst you find out like, oh yeah, no, he sucks, and like those 7 snaps he got against the Rams, that was as good as it got, kind of thing and stuff. So, but like you said, overall, it was a good game. Aaron Donald had his 1 sack, but otherwise, it's not like he took over the game. Like,
He
like
came close
honestly,
for that second one. If Jordan wouldn't have
yeah,
been able to get rid of it, he would have came close for that second one.
yeah. But overall, like based on how this interior O line has played at times this season, it was a pleasant surprise that he didn't have one of those, oh my God, there's the first ballot Hall of Famer with 100 sacks kind of games. So,
Yeah,
it
but
was a
like I
breath of
said
fresh
on
air.
the preview episode, Elton came out and looked like all pro Elton.
And that's one of the bigger things out of offense in this game is Elton looked like Elton for the first time since honestly early in week 1 when he was playing next to Bakhtiari. I think his knee is getting relatively healthy. He'll probably still be limited this week, but he was moving and he was getting onto downfield targets on, second level run blocks and things like that. So that was really good to see because Elton has been a shell of himself since he got hurt against the Falcons. So it's really good to see him be able to move and match in space on defenders. So that was that was a sight for sore eyes as well. But kind
And we
of,
didn't get a Donald choke. We didn't get
no,
a
we
Donald
didn't.
choke.
Like I said, he had a couple plays, so it kept him from blowing his top. We didn't blank him like we did in those either the playoff game or that late November game back in 2021. But overall, like that was all of the good, and then like we said, it wasn't a perfect performance by the offense. You still saw some of those mental mistakes. I don't recall off first blush seeing cases where guys just blatantly ran the wrong routes. So that was a good bit of progress. Nothing where it's like Jaden Reed yelling at Christian Watson last week, or ones where we were like, was he throwing it to Reed or was he throwing it to Dobbs kind of thing. So that's progress. But Jaden Reed did have one of the most inexcusable penalties for a receiver in this game. And this is someone who's definitely never done that before in his failure of a high school career. But receivers, you're looking at the ball. It doesn't matter if your quarterback does the hopscotch in the backfield, claps, farts. I don't care. You should never false start. And Reed tried to do the thing where he definitely moved, and then he was like, let me try and take a step and make it look like I'm readjusting myself. But no, it's like, dude, like you can't false start. You definitely can't. And then the fumbles, the 2 fumbles, those were
I think that's one of the main reasons why Aaron Jones hasn't been used as a what they call it, the
the
bell
bell
cow.
cow. I think it's more
back.
the injury history because he does
Well,
get dinged up every year, but he did have like it wasn't full on like Amon Green fumbleitis, but he definitely
He's
had
always good
questions
for
about
one.
it. Yeah,
He's
yeah.
always good for one if he's relied upon.
Perone
And
kind of made the snarky joke like, well, at least it's not in a key playoff game and it's in a game in
Right.
November this time. So, but it's
And
true.
then-
Like it hurts because it's true.
and then the it was Wicks, right?
Yeah.
I didn't get to see that one. I had to
Yeah.
step away for a minute, so I
Like I
really
said,
didn't see that one.
like I said, I don't want to bash him too hard because I get it. You're a rookie, and hey, he's doing the thing that a lot of fans and us have said, like make a play for your quarterback, but know the game situation. You're not on the goal line. Don't and watching it on replay, even if he just sits down where he went down, he had the first down. Like, and that was the part I really didn't like was I was like, he stretched it out for an extra like half a yard to yard past the first down marker. So it's like worst case scenario, you're down like it's second and inches kind of thing.
Well,
And
and like we've
and
said
yeah,
before, the weather was shot. You
yeah,
don't when your gloves aren't sticking like they should because of the rain, you can't just use a hand to
yeah.
unless you've got like Shaquille O'Neal hands where they're 9 foot long and you can palm the football, you don't do that stuff.
Yeah, but overall, a much better. Yeah, and Lafleur, he did a good job. I thought he did a good job sticking with the run game. Like I said, 184 yards, and it wasn't like they had an explosive run. I think the long was Emmanuel Wilson with the 31-yard run that he had at the very end of the game. It's not like Jones or Dillon busted one. And I know Jaden Reed had the reverse, but so that between Reed and Wilson, they had 50 of the 100. So between Dillon and Jones, you have 113 yards on a solid like 4 yards a carry kind of thing. So it was just a workman like game. So good on LaFleur recognizing the conditions and sticking with the run game today. Also, like playing to who your opponent is. Your opponent is playing a blow up doll quarterback. So play smart, clean football, and for the most part they did. So that'll put a bow on the offense for this week. And here we go again, kind of the same thing for what we've been saying where hey, the defense gave up only 3 points, but how much of that is really on them and how much of it is on who they were playing. And this week, honestly, I'll be nice to them. I do think, yes, as much as Brett Rippon is you have to be someone who lives on the west coast of the country because he played at Boise State to even know that name. But he's a guy that I've seen torch Hawaii a few times when he played for Boise State. But he's been a nobody in the NFL. And while yes, like Green Bay did enough, they definitely capitalized him on being an inexperienced fringe style quarterback. You don't just get your hands on 10 out of 28 passes and call that nothing. So it was nice to see guys making plays outside of their initial responsibility today in coverage. And I put that, like Jair basically set up Anthony Johnson Jr.'s first career interception by sinking off of cover two, recognizing he had nobody in front of him, sinking off of his initial coverage and getting underneath a corner route, tipping it up so that Johnson could make an easier interception on it. So Ed, how about it? I know this on some level pains you and some level makes you happy, but Johnson, I thought, and it's kind of like old lineman, you didn't hear his name called too much except for where he got his interception. He had the play in the flat where he timed up a nice hit on the tight end to knock the ball out. And otherwise, I thought he came up in run support a couple times and stuff. But overall, it was a quiet day at the office for Johnson, which for safeties is good. Like,
I
unless
think
they're
there
making
was
splash plays.
one time that I think it was I think you could make the case that maybe Jair got burned, but I know Moose was saying on the commentary that he could have also been expecting Johnson to come over and for the safety help,
Oh,
and Johnson was
Cooper's long catch or whatever. Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
Anthony Johnson was just kind of late reading the play. So
Yeah.
maybe that was one time that
No, yeah, the cup reception is definitely a cover two, not a bust. It's more of a it's that's the thing is like you're not playing man, right? So at some point you hand off coverage responsibilities, and I know some people were kind of worried that Ja looked hurt on that one, and actually thought he was moving a lot better than he did last week against the Vikings.
there was only
That
one
one,
time that I noticed that maybe it didn't look like but I
yeah,
wonder if it was because it's not that he was hurt. He was just worried that if he made the wrong shift, it was going to re-injure it.
yeah. which
So,
I'm still not thrilled that he's at that point, but I'd rather be there than, it's like
well,
obviously locking up on
just
him.
as well as I do, Mike, that when you start feeling better, you're always worried about that until
Yeah.
you do it. Because I've had those moments too where, oh yeah, I feel good, I feel great, and I go out and I do something, and oh, there it goes again, and
And it's
then I'm
always the
hurting more.
simplest thing too, right? So
Right.
yeah, so no, I agree. And like, yeah, that long completion to Cup, I saw a couple people being like, oh my god, like Jair is that. I'm like, no, he's doing what he's supposed to do. There is a route underneath of him, so he can't just keep running with Cup, or there's no one on the sideline. So I thought Moose was really good on his calls today. Like, even I know this is on offense, but he went to bat for Josh Myers on that one holding call that he got called for at the beginning of the second half, where it was like Moose is like, his hands are inside. What do you want him to do there, kind of thing, and all.
Yeah,
So
well, and
yeah,
I've always loved, even though he was a Cowboy, Daryl Johnston has always been a really good commentator. He's been one of my favorite ones throughout, other than the main Packer guys like Wayne and Larry and stuff
yeah,
like that. But he's always been pretty well non-biased. Now he will throw in a Cowboy thing here or there when
oh,
he's
of
calling the
course,
Cowboys, but he did that all game. Even he was kind of saying the same thing about the offensive offside calls, that that one didn't look, we're not getting the best angles, so that one doesn't really look like it. Or so yeah, Daryl Johnston is one of the best out there.
yeah,
If more people could be like him, that would be great.
yeah. And so from one rookie seventh round pick having a good game to another having a nice bounce back
Oh,
after some rough
Valentine
games.
had a hell of a game.
And
Especially,
I don't want people to like, well, he wasn't covering Puka or Cup a lot. Tutu Atwell is not an easy guy to cover. And yes, I know the rain takes away a lot of what he does well, but that's a hard guy to stay in front of and stay
well,
on top
and
of.
yeah, he also did cover Puka a few different times,
Yeah.
because there was
Drew the big
one,
OPI on him and stuff. So
yeah,
yeah.
and he made the one big breakup against Puka, and so I the only one that I don't think he really covered was Cooper. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'll agree with that. But the rest of them, he did amazing.
Yeah, it was a good, and these are the kind of games that I know that, they're quote unquote playing nobody, but these are the kind of games they're really good for young defense, especially young secondary players, especially in Valentine's case, where he's had a couple meh games and a couple rough spots within those games. Chris Olave kind of sunned him when he first got playing time against the Saints. And it's one of those where it's like, okay, Chris Olave does that to a lot of guys, so don't hang your head, rookie, kind of thing. But it was good for him to have this kind of a game where it's like, yeah, like that stuff I did in the preseason, that wasn't BS. That is actually who I am as a player and stuff. So it was good to see him, getting into it, being energetic, and they're gonna need that because next week they're playing Pittsburgh, and they have two of the better receiving options in Deontay Johnson and George Pickens, two big play threats.
Well,
So yeah.
maybe Pickens. He's
We'll
I
get into that in the preview, but yeah,
I
like,
know, but I got to say it here just because I loved it. Like I tweeted it when they were talking about it. I loved the talent of the kid. I really wish the Packers would have had him based on the talent, but that attitude is stank.
oh yeah, it's spooky.
And I know that's one of the big things that they were saying about him at Georgia was he had amazing talent, but he was immature and he had a dumbass attitude on him.
Yeah,
So maybe he plays next week.
we all heard the rumors that the Packers were never going to take him because of that. So yeah,
Well, it wasn't just that; they were also very concerned about the
health and
injury.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But combine the two, and it's like, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. But and sticking with the rookies, Lucas, Wooden, and Brooks, they all had really good play. It was the play right before the Johnson interception that Lucas got isolated on a tight end, put that guy on his ass, and he just hustled his ass off the whole play and put Ripon on the turf on a throwaway. And I thought Lucas played a really good game. I saw someone tweet like, "Oh, he's doing nothing," and I'm like, he's playing limited snaps. He's setting the edge. He's hustling on plays that are away from him, and he's gotten a couple pressures where he should maybe have a sack or two. But like he had the one in the first half where I was like, "Oh, like he's totally kicked the left tackle's ass." But then because Carl Brooks goes inside instead of keeping contained, Ripon just ran right away from him, kind of thing. So I thought Lucas had a good game. I don't know how he'll grade by PFF or anything, but in my view of the broadcast view, I thought he had a really nice game that he put together today.
Him and Brooks on the same side worked really well together.
Yeah,
I really liked, especially after Kenny went out. The one tackle for loss by Lucas was basically caused by Carl Brooks.
Yeah.
So
he took three blockers out. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to let you continue to pump up Lucas because I know I'm just going to sound like a homer when I do it. So, but I'm happy to see him, again, to use my common phrase, stack successes on that.
Yeah.
Because it just seems like week after week he keeps getting more and more involved in things.
Yeah. And the thing with him is that he's getting more opportunities to rush the passer than Rashawn did as a rookie. We always relate the two because they're kind of the same player in terms of who they were coming out of college. And, Rashawn is what you hope Lucas turns into eventually, 2-3 years down the road. But, what's nice in Lucas's case, Rashawn wasn't going to get to play obvious passing downs because he had Preston and Zadarius in their first season. And so, but you're getting to see Lucas have some opportunity. And I thought one of the better things that Barry did this week is obviously he still did the thing where it's like, okay, Rashawn and Preston, you're off, and Ogbury and Lucas, you're on. And JJ had a good game too. He had some nice plays where he slipped some blocks and made some tackles for loss. But you're seeing Lucas get some snaps with Preston. He's usually with Preston, and Rashawn is usually with JJ. But yeah, I just think that he's getting to play a lot more snaps because Barry is doing a better job than I thought Petten did. I know that there's the whole debate of, do you play your top guys more or do you keep them fresh so that they're on the field for important plays and they can make
everybody wants to do the Philadelphia Eagle thing where they get enough guys where they just can continuously rotate them in without having to waste timeouts or worry about catching your breath or whatever. They just want to continuously rotate them in. It's very rare that it happens. I mean, look at it. There's 2 teams maybe doing that right now, in the Eagles and the 49ers. Everybody else is pretty much running the same guys out there constantly because they don't have the depth. I still am hoping, and I don't know, somebody's going to have to give me Joe Barry's number or something because I'll make that phone call. I'll take the hit. I still hope one of these days we'll get Lucas on with his hand in the dirt and Rashawn right next to him, because I have a feeling they're going to kill somebody. I hate to put it that morbidly, but with the two of them in there on the same side, I don't see how they're not going to tear something up. And I mean, it's not like they're not running Lucas with his hand in the dirt. They did it numerous times today. So it wouldn't be that hard to put the two of them together.
Yep. And I think that's coming eventually. Well, it better be, because get your best guys on, your best options on the field. And, we saw more of Rashawn playing that old rover position that Zadarius would play when he was in his first and second year in Green Bay and stuff. So seeing them mix things up on defense. I thought TJ Slayton had another strong game, kind of like you said, stacking success from last week, where he had probably his best game of his career. And then the big one to keep an eye on is Kenny, just to see what, you don't want to ever see one of your best players carted to the locker room, but I'm glad that he was getting carted just so he didn't have to walk there. They said it was a shoulder. So hopefully he's back sooner than later from that. But it's going to give a lot of these younger guys opportunities. And if Kenny's missed his time, Jonathan Ford is luckily still on the practice squad. So maybe we'll finally be right on one of those call-ups for once. But
Hopefully, I mean, I hate seeing Kenny being lost. I mean, he's been a rock for this team for the longest time. So whatever, but you need a big guy in the middle. And TJ Slayton's been doing it for a while, but maybe you throw two big guys out there and just let them eat the offensive line up and let your pass rushers have at him. I
yep.
just I don't I know I'm looking at this from a fan point of view, and I can't look at it like that because, oh well, this isn't Madden, this isn't this or that. But when you got two guys that are mountain of men that can, eat up double teams like for breakfast, I don't know why you wouldn't.
Yeah. No, totally agree. But those are decisions that are out of our pay grade. But
Give
overall,
me Joe's phone number, I'll do it. I'll call him tomorrow.
And
I'll call him right now, damn it.
Just going back to what we've been saying about the defense for the past month. Yeah, kind of like we said about the offense, they did what they were supposed to do against an undermanned and bad team. But we're going to find out in a couple of weeks because, they're going to play a bad Pittsburgh offense next week. So we'll see what happens there. But like I said, they do have some explosive playmakers. But right after that, it gets real because we're going to find out how good, like you had some guys like Ryan Wood making snarky remarks like, ooh, a tough one for the fire Joe Barry people. But I'm like, yeah, let's see what happens in a couple weeks because, sure, they haven't given up 20 points since the Lions game, but who have they played? They played the Raiders. Oh, no, they gave up 24 last week to the Vikings. Never mind. But, they've held it down and kept the offense in it. But it's like, okay, but you played the Raiders, who just fired their coach and GM, the Broncos, and now the Rams with, like I said, a blow-up doll at quarterback. So, you get this Pittsburgh team that's kind of foundering on offense, and then after that, it's Chargers, Lions, Chiefs. So we're going to find out pretty quick how real or not that defensive, quote unquote, defensive progress is. So,
we lost the mic.
Oh, no, I'm still here. I can see you still.
Oh, you went max headroom. Where you echoed out and then froze for a bit.
Oh, geez. But yeah, so just getting back to it, we're they have one more game where they should be expected to hold an opposing offense down because they're playing Pittsburgh next week. But then it's the Chargers at the Lions and then the Chiefs. And we'll find out. We'll find out what happens now.
Are we good?
Yep.
I'm back.
Yep.
Are you back?
I can hear you and see you.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, guys, this is what technology does.
This is what Joe Barry does. His defense is so stupid it breaks your podcast. But seriously, like I said, I don't think we've really learned anything except for maybe Johnson can play. Valentine has his swagger back. We've always seen him comp to Jair in this. Like, he's not the same elite athlete, but he's kind of the similar build, similar style of player. And I thought when he first was playing this season, he wasn't, he wasn't kind of a cocky asshole. He was kind of reserved and stuff. So it was good to see him be able to talk his talk this week. And well, like I said, they have another game against a weird offense in Pittsburgh that's kind of meh, but also will hit some big plays every now and then. So, and then it's Chargers, Lions, Chiefs. So they've got to prove that they're actually better than I think they've been. So we'll see over the next 4 weeks. And then the special teams. Anders. Oh, Anders.
And I can't really... What was it? It was a 50-some yarder, wasn't it? 52-yarder?
Hold on. I just lost it. He had... I thought it was 48 or something. Oh, maybe it was 52. Yeah. Let's see. $48.
So he missed the 48. All right. Well, that's still a that's still of a long ass kick to be making. And, like I said, not monsoon like rain, but steady rain. And so, and we all knew he wasn't going to be 100% for the season. But the thing is like I've said before, he's not correcting and just
Yeah,
collapsing. He's at least taking it with stride, because then he came on and made one later on.
couple
So
more. Yeah,
yeah, and he was doing damn well with the point afters. So at least we've got it corrected. At least we've got it to where if he misses, he doesn't,
go in the
like,
tank. Yeah,
yeah.
like that Cincinnati preseason game. Yeah, exactly.
So, or like the Mason Crosby game, the
Oh
different
yeah,
Mason Crosby ones where the minute he missed, you were done. So, but he's still got a leg, he's still got the ability. We're good on that. Same with Wheelan. I mean, but I'm really waiting on the snow and the frigid temperatures for him.
yeah. It was good to see
Same
him
with
still have a
Anders.
solid game today in a not great weather day. It's not, like we said, it's not the super cold or the super snow or anything like that, but it's good to see him kick outdoor in the elements and have a still good game kind of thing. So um,
Ugh,
coverage was okay, and then the returns were actually nice. Nixon had the whatever 51 yarder that got fumbled away on the next play, and then he had that one solid punt return too, and then Jaden Reed had his nice punt return at the end of the game as well. So solid day for the return group. I mean, the way kickoffs are, and well, the Rams only kicked off twice today, so not a lot of opportunities. And then and then in terms of punting, how many times did they actually punt? Oh, they only punted 3. Oh no, wait, hold on, sorry. Oh, they punted 5 times. So yeah, they had a couple returns and
I'm
few
just
fair
glad
catches or let it bounce. Yeah.
Keyshawn is being more patient. He's
Yeah.
not taking everything out. So, I'm glad he's learned on that one. I know everybody's myth that, oh, well, what happened to our all pro kick returner? Well, hey, it happens, but at least he's being patient and we're getting the ball
Yeah.
where we should. And it's not like at the 10-yard line every
Yeah.
time.
He's doing what he should. He's standing at the goal line, and if it looks kind of short, do something with it. We don't need the ones where he's jumping at the back line of the end zone and like one of those where he's almost Spider-Manning the goalpost kind of thing or anything like that. So yeah, I like you said, there's a little bit more almost maturity to his decision making as a return man. So good to see. But yeah, not too much more on the special teams. But yeah, who's your MVP for today, Joe?
I'm going to give it to him. I'm going to say Jordan. Jordan looked really good today, notwithstanding, like we pointed out earlier, just a couple of, mistakes per se. But I think he looked more calm. He looked more confident. I thought he was making, outside of, again, a couple of the mistakes that we were talking about, he made really good decisions with it. The play calls were there, the reads were there, and I just think he did a good job. And I love how he's doing the play action. I mean, he's legit looking like a play action. It looks legit for play action. It doesn't look like, the Favre ones where it was obvious he still had the ball in his hand, or, the fake throw that he would do after a handoff or whatever. So, I think Jordan deserves it.
Yep. I'm gonna go with I'll go with LaFleur because he called a good game. Like I said, I thought he called a good game. 20 carries for Aaron Jones. So we'll have to I'll have to change up my over under strategy because they finally did it. They finally gave it to him over 9 times in a game, and so 20 carries and 4 receptions on top of that. So 24 total touches. That's kind of where you want Jones. I'd almost prefer less, actually 20 is about the max of where I'd want him carries, and then somewhere between 15 to 20 carries and 5 to 10 receptions is like my ideal for Jones. So he's right in that sweet spot. Thought he had a solid game today. Had the fumble, but also had a touchdown. And he, you saw that his ability to kind of not ghost people, but just make guys miss in tight quarters and just be a productive option for this offense. So it's good to have.
And now he's passed both Donald Driver and Paul Hornung for touchdowns for the Packers.
Is amazing. Yeah, just cementing his status in Packers lore. So good day back in the office for Aaron Jones. Least valuable. You got anyone for that today?
It's hard to really choose on it. I mean, the low-hanging fruit would probably be Jonathan Owens, just because he really didn't show out again. But I'm going to go off the wall, and I'm going to say the referees, just because I know there were stupid mistakes, and I know that, but it just seemed like a hanky fest again today. And I don't know if it was really that they were, if the calls were legit, or if they just, every so often these refs decide that they want to have more TV time or something. So if I had to put anybody as our LVP, it would probably be them. Unless you want to go like Mark Rippon or something like that. So
no, he's an MVP. But yeah, I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna go super cheap on this one. It's the mental mistake still, because like you said, there wasn't that one guy who just had a boneheaded, like an overly boneheaded game kind of thing. Because like I said, Jones was my MVP, but his fumble was one of those where it's like, how did he fumble that kind of thing? And then Wicks, he had, his fumble was stupid, but he also made some nice plays on other receptions. So, I don't want to just make him LVP when he still had a pretty productive game outside of that fumble. So, yeah, I'm just going to say it's mental mistakes personified. And until we really nip those in the butts, I'm going to stick with that one without like you said, without a surefire candidate to point at. So that'll be mine for today. But anything else for today's game, Joe, or any other thoughts?
Just, like I said, stack successes. I kind of butchered the quote on the Game On post-game thing, but, to go with the Major League quote, Lou Brown says, we won one today. If we win one next week, that, they call that a streak. And, that's what you need to do. Jair said that, he expects to win the rest of, win out, the next 10 days they're going to win. So it's put up or shut up time. And, let's get it done.
Absolutely. I think that's a really good and succinct way to put a bow on this one. But so that's going to do it for this week's episode, this week's game recap episode. Finally, back in the win column again are the Packers. And you've got two more excited and happy hosts than just dour and kicked in the nuts that we've been the past month. So that's going to do it for us. I'm Mike. That's Iowa Joe. Please follow us on Twitter. I'm at Kawano Mike. Joe is at Iowa_Joe86. Follow the show either by our website, ohanapackers.org. We're continuing to collect and add writers. Joey Van Zumeren started with his first article last week, and we'll be doing periodic releases. Got a couple more who are on board that will start to get their pieces up on the website, along with myself and Joe putting stuff up there. The show's Twitter handle is at Ohana_Packers. Please follow the podcast either on the website under the podcast tab or via your favorite podcast app. Please subscribe, give us a like if you're enjoying what you're hearing, and whether you're liking or not liking what you're hearing, please leave us feedback via comments. We do appreciate any that we can get at this point. Joe, we are another step closer back to 500. Packers are 3-5 at this point, looking to get to 4-5 next week. We want to say thank you again for joining us. Mahalo and aloha.